Hi, my name is Karen Lopez, and this is my Juvenile Text and Reflection 3. The novel I selected is titled The Other Half of Happy, and it was written by Rebecca Balcarcel. As I mentioned, the author is Rebecca Balcarcel. The genre is contemporary. The publisher is Chronicle Books, and its awards are Pura Belpré Award nominee for author in 2020, and that same year an America's Award honoree. The target grade levels for this book are 5th through 9th grade. About the author, obviously, Balcarcel is an author. She's also a poet, associate professor of English at Tarrant County College. Her last name is pronounced Balcarcel. Like the main character Quijana, Balcarcel is from Guatemala. She shares literature and writing videos on her YouTube channel, 6 Minute Scholar. I included 2 videos from YouTube. One is a conversation she had with a university back in 2014, and I got to know more about her and what inspires her writing and poems. And the other is actually from her 6 Minute Scholar YouTube channel, and she has a segment called Book Talk, and in this video she talks about her novel The Other Half of Happy. I reached out through email to Balcarcel because I was curious to learn more about her. Because of the videos I saw, I was intrigued by her, and also specifically the publication journey, the process, what that was like, if she had any stories. And thankfully she replied, and I'm happy to share exactly what she said. And I quote, "I had been able to publish a book of poems with a small university press, but I wanted my Quijana pieces to have a wider audience. I say pieces because the book was a stack of vignettes at the time. I researched and inquired 20 agents. One took a real interest, especially in the poetic language, and she requested the whole manuscript. She is Katie Grimm, a sought-after agent at the New York agency, Don Condon. I was on leaping around the living room. Before signing me, Katie wanted me to try my hand at changing the vignettes into a novel. Trained as a poet, I had a lot to learn about fiction, but I wanted to try. She said the book would sign me as a middle grade novel, and that made me believe it. I rewrote the book, and then she signed me. But we still went through a year of drafts before it was ready to go to publishers. She sent it out for 9 months, and we got 15 or so lovely rejections. They gushed about the voice of the character, but the plot wasn't grabbing them. Finally, Chronicle Books' Taylor Norman wanted to buy the book, but I knew that I would need to rewrite it, maybe several times more, which turned out to be true. I added the Whippeal plot in the last major rewrite of the book, and that did it. Now everything in the book felt purposeful, and the book had an engine. Chronicle was thrilled, and they gave the book a lot of exposure and support. They printed 3,000 advance review copies to give to librarians and teachers at conferences, for example, and paid for me to attend several conferences, such as ALA and TLA. When the book won an award, there were tears and squeals all around. So my publishing experience has been beautiful. I was taken seriously by an agent, offered an advance that is typical of debut authors of any cultural background, and given enthusiastic support by my publisher. I not only appreciated that she replied, but how in-depth she went. I think it's a beautiful story, especially how she calls it beautiful, because to a lot of people this might seem like a negative story, like so many struggles, like it took forever, but she saw the positive side of it, and I think that's awesome. I also like how she incorporated the huipil into the plot, because that represents the Guatemalan culture. I'm Mexican, so I had never heard of what a huipil was, and I think that really tied the book together. She also replied in another paragraph, and I quote, "Not every author of color is so lucky. In children's literature, only 5.3% of 3,716 children's books surveyed by the Cooperative Children's Book Center in 2019, the year my novel came out, starred a Latina main character. And some of those books had to find homes in smaller houses with lower advances. The perception seems to be that the average reader might not pick up these books, so there's not a big enough market for them. However, books like The Hate You Give and Every Book by Jason Reynolds disproves this. All kids need all the books to choose from. With the right access, kids of all backgrounds and races do read books about kids of all backgrounds and races. I hope my positive experience indicates that publishing is changing. I see an eagerness to publish diverse literature, and the big houses know that further work needs to be done. As far as hiring editors and executives of color, Neither my agent nor editor is Latina, but they love the stories I want to tell and are giving me enormous support. My next novel is Shine On, Luz Feliz, about an injured soccer star who takes up robotics, and it comes out in spring 2022. While I was happy to hear that the publishing process is changing and to be more diverse, I think it's so unfortunate that only 5.3% of the books starred a Latina main character, and also how she quotes average reader. I think that it's not just about having an average reader picking up a book, it is all about how you implement the material. As we've learned in this course, Windows and Mirrors, Multicultural Literature by Yonko Yokota, and the Teaching for Tolerance Standards can actually change the way that books are perceived by students. As I mentioned, the article by Yonko Yokota titled Issues in Selecting Multicultural Literature, a quote that I think reflects this book is, "Cultural information may be so naturally and truthfully woven into the story that it becomes evident that the author isn't intimately familiar with the nuances of a culture." In this case, the author, Valcarcel, she represents her culture through the descriptions of food, music, environment, clothing, slang, and relationships, family dynamics, since she herself is also Guatemalan, like the main character, Quijana. I created a word cloud of Quijana's identities, and I think this book can be used when teaching identity standards for the grades of 6th through 8th, so that's around the target grade level. The standard I specifically chose is, I know and I like who I am and can comfortably talk about my family and myself and describe our various group identities. In the beginning of the book, Quijana has some struggles displaying her Guatemalan culture and only tries to be and assimilate as an American. She is only 12 years old and is half American and half Guatemalan. Some of her identities are best friend, daughter, granddaughter, student, singer, and even musician. Throughout the book, she struggles with self-confidence and knowing who she is, especially her Guatemalan side, but eventually she learns to love herself and her Guatemalan culture, even the huipil that she unfortunately sold, but it represents the Guatemalan culture. How it relates to the aspect of windows and mirrors, it is estimated that 1.4 million Hispanics of Guatemalan origin live in the United States and in 2017, and Guatemalans are the 6th largest population of Hispanic origin living in the US. This contemporary novel reflects aspects of the Guatemalan culture which could serve as a mirror for some students. For other readers, this story can be a window that offers a view from an experience unrelated to them. Regardless of the reader, it can be an opportunity to further learn about themselves or others because of the diverse characters. This aspect of Windows and Mirror reflects to what Valcarcel said about average reader picking up a book. It's more than that. It's not just about, oh, this is about superheroes and animals. As we learned in this course, there's actually more books that incorporate animals than, for example, a Latina main character. It's more about how it's implemented. If we teach students the literature through units and curriculum and they grow to love books that have nothing to do with them, they can learn about themselves even and about others. I also like how this book is about Guatemalan, not just the typical, Mexican Hispanics books, because Guatemalans are Hispanic, but that doesn't mean that all Hispanics are Mexican or so forth, that Guatemalans are actually not Mexican, and if someone says, oh, this is just a Mexican person, that's offensive to them because they're their own culture, they have their own backgrounds, and for example, we learned about the huipil. Overall, I think this story reflects several aspects that we've learned in this course about what it takes to be a multicultural literature, and I am very grateful that Rebecca Valcarcel replied to my email, since it helped tie everything and relates a lot to what we're learning in the course. And here are my references. Thank you for listening.